What is up, gamers and geeks? Matt here with That's Fair Podcasting and Gaming Geeks Live. My level of excitement has shot through the roof, and I can guarantee you fans all know why. Having stated in so many of the past videos that Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is my all-time favorite video game ever, I am so ecstatic to finally talk about how my excitement for the Old Republic and a single-player RPG video game has been reinvented, has resurged, and it is a massive, massive win for us KOTOR fans. Simply because this is not a sequel, a continuation of KOTOR 1 or 2, we know that, but with Casey Hudson himself, Mr. Mass Effect Trilogy, Mr. Original Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and yes, Anthem, forced by EA. But even with Casey Hudson on board, I can tell you with all the previously past Star Wars games that were canceled, this is not to be one of them, and it could be coming out sooner than we think. Hopefully with these remakes beforehand, so stay tuned. I mean, this may not be the big news for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake we were hoping for, even the Sith Lords KOTOR 2 remake we were hoping for, but I don't care. This is an entirely new story in a new direction for the Old Republic with a single-player driven RPG experience by the master himself, Casey Hudson, with an updated engine, probably Unreal Engine 5, with everything updated from combat mechanics and all that. And I gotta tell you, I could not be more ecstatic. But if you are new here, please feel free to subscribe to That's Fair Podcasting or Gaming Geeks Live. Please like that video. You've been helping us in that algorithm, and I sincerely appreciate it. And if you don't do any of those and you just watch how giddy I am like a kid in a freaking candy store because a new Star Wars Old Republic Star RPG is coming out, thank you for staying with me. Now, as you know, on December 11th, the Video Game Awards came out. A lot of it was cringy in some areas, even with some cringy aftershocks of it with, I won't name the studio, but there being babies about not winning, with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But on December 11th, we got to see a trailer drop for Fate of the Old Republic, and we saw Casey Hudson's name at the end of that trailer. That trailer already gave me goosebumps. Why? Because if you can clearly see, for one, we'll start off. If you remember the Leviathan, or ships similar to the Leviathan in Star Wars, at least, especially in the first one. I think you saw snippets of replicas of it in KOTOR 2, The Sith Lords. But I remember the Leviathan being the big ship Darth Malak was on, and Saul was on, and he was always looking on the observation deck out towards Terrace and whatnot. But you always saw the Leviathan, and that outline of the Leviathan crash landing on that planet. What did they see on there? A lot of people are speculating Bastila Shan, that doesn't make sense given the time that it's called Fate of the Old Republic, and I have a feeling that we could be looking at minimum a couple of thousand years into the future at this point. But how long has that skeletal remain of that Leviathan been sitting there on whatever planet we were on at that point in time during the trailer? And then that woman, that obviously an obvious Force user, is looking out and seeing something rise from the yellow smoke, and you see her face up close. Guys, this has me so excited. I can't even, and don't get me wrong, Exodus was also advertised, that's the game I'm looking forward to the most as far as new IPs. But guys, Fate of the Old Republic, if you're not geezed for this, I don't know what to tell you. Now, obviously, we were following, and if this is a Casey Hudson game, you're probably going to ultimately get to choose your gender, create your character, whatever, customize them as well. But we do know that it had to be what was clear to be a Force user, was basically stepping, you're going to step in the role of a Force user, obviously, because, little snippets. When you see her face up close and you see she's looking, there's a dark part of her face and a light side. I got instant vibes, like Luke Skywalker vibes from Return of the Jedi, when he's waiting there during the fight with his father Darth Vader. I will not fight you, and you see his face is half in the dark, half in the light. You got to take symbolism, and with Casey Hudson and it being a Star Wars game, take the same kind of symbolism. You see her face when she's, I think, going into the remnants of the Leviathan. You see a dark side and a light side half of her face. Gives me chills. You can see the condensation on her face, and maybe she's having some dilemma with the Force at that point, but all I know is it gave me good vibes that you're going to have another one of those light and dark side choices. But let's talk about the name of the title, Fate of the Old Republic. It's telling me it's farther into the Old Republic era than what we were used to. Now, that's not to say that Star Wars KOTOR 1 and 2 aren't going to set the tone for what's going on in the world of Fate of the Old Republic. Don't be surprised if you hear mentions of Revan or Bastila or Meetra Surik, who was the protagonist in the second one, the Sith Lords, and in canon she's a female who was a Jedi exile. Don't be surprised if you hear names, backdrops of stories on them that helped shape the Old Republic, that what Casey Hudson's originally started. And, so expect name drops, but the dates would not make sense if it is getting closer to the end of the Old Republic. We all know how the Old Republic ultimately ends. If you don't look into it, it's such a wonderful story. But if it's the fate of the Old Republic, we've got to be farther into the future. And if that's the case, you're looking at Revan. Darth Revan, his original birth date was 3994 BBY, which for Star Wars nerds like me, that's before the Battle of Yavin, meaning the ultimate destruction of the first Death Star, while the Death Star is closing in on Yavin. So BBY is basically everything centers around that date. And I'm thinking we could be looking at something, it was roughly the fall of the Old Republic was about 1,000 years BBY. So you could very well be looking at 2,000 to 3,000 year difference in the timestamp. Don't be surprised if we are. It's still going to be the Old Republic era. Now this is speculation, but judging by the title, Fate of the Old Republic, I'm thinking it could be nearing the end of the Old Republic. Again, speculation, but don't expect it to be the same timeline, which means, you're not going to see Meetra Surik or Bastila Shan. Maybe descendants way on down the road there, but you're definitely not going to be seeing any of these characters, as they would be, at least according to everything so far, a couple of thousand years in the past, where this new Fate of the Old Republic, or FOTOR, will take place. Now, Fate of the Old Republic is most likely going to be your single player, as we've already know, single player action role-playing game with choices having consequences, leveling up your character, all that we're used to. And basically in this style, I would expect that we got from the KOTORs and even the Mass Effect trilogy. Now, having said that, it is a collaboration with Lucasfilms once again, no EA. As you know, here a few years back, I believe Disney basically told EA, look, you may have the rights, but we're gonna expand upon this, because I think that even Disney, which shocks me, got a little tired of EA's way of loot boxing and more or less fleecing gamers for more money. But Lucasfilms also being involved in this with Casey Hudson is, again, a massive promise that this game is going to go forward, probably without cancellation, and I would give it a good 95 to 99%. Now, Casey Hudson has a new studio called Arcanaut Studios. I would have to look it up. I'll have it on the screen. He did leave BioWare, starting his own independent video game company, and they were working on a new IP of a new sci-fi RPG single-player experience, but the funding didn't come through. That fell through. They closed down. Now, a lot of belief is that Fate of the Old Republic could be farther along, simply because whatever they recorded in this new sci-fi RPG, all the things that they kept from their first, working and producing this first one, could be incorporated into this, which could make Fate of the Old Republic be here quicker than I think we realize. Now, we know that just a simple gameplay trailer, and it's not gameplay, I should say, it's a cinematic trailer. We do know that typically those just mean that they're in the early process of pre-production, which this game very well could be. But you have some people on Twitter and stuff taking to Blue Sky and Twitter and all that, or X, whatever you want to call it. They took to it basically saying, well, don't expect this game till 2030. But Casey Hudson gave us a lot of promise and a lot of light with that, because he came along with a reply saying, I'm not getting any younger. You can expect it before 2030. Which a lot of people are speculating possibly at 2028. That's just speculation. There's nothing to back that up. But I will say this much, that if this one company that he did create before he is now part of Arcanaut Studio, The company that he created beforehand, they shut down, but they were in the process of, in production, of producing a sci-fi single-player RPG game. So a lot of that, again, could be incorporated into this and reused and reformatted. So this game could be farther along than we think. Fingers crossed. Now, we know we're going to get innovative storytelling with an updated engine. We know that. Memorable cast of characters, as always. It's a Casey Hudson game, so expect that. Expect different types of relationships to form with bonds within your crew. You can expect to pick up crews on the way. And upgraded mechanics, even with the level up systems, mind you, as well as combat mechanics on these latest engines. So, guys, we're getting an Old Republic era RPG game with all new advancements. Now, could it be on the next console instead of the current one? Most likely. That doesn't matter. With this game moving forward, I will buy the other console when it comes out because, look, it's a Star Wars The Old Republic. Now, let's backtrack a bit. Are we going to get Star Wars 1 KOTOR remake and or Star Wars 2 Sith Lords remake, or both? Now, here's the deal. Don't be surprised if we get these dropped to us before the actual Old Republic game. Now, Fate of the Old Republic is not a KOTOR 3. FOTOR is not KOTOR. Let's just get that out of the way. This could lead the possibility, if we do get the Star Wars remake, which is a KOTOR remake 1 that's still in production, we know that. And with this recent leak with the Sith Lords remake being in production, we could still get a KOTOR 3, guys. I'm just saying, this leaves a lot of Old Republic era type gaming to come back to us. This should have you excited because we know we're getting Star Wars 1 remake by Saber Interactive. Now, I'm not quite sure who's currently working on the Sith Lords. It was Aspyr. We will see. But will we get these before we get Fate of the Old Republic? I would think maybe. Maybe they're going to hand these out, you know, obviously you're going to buy them, but maybe they're going to put these out before this one to give us Old Republic as we wait on this Fate of the Old Republic. And could that lead to a KOTOR 3? That is good speculation right there. Now, one thing I do know that Casey, and we'll just use his last name, Riley, I'm drawing a blank on his first name, but these guys are committed to staying true to what we originally know as Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic lore. That I know for sure. That you can find that's been written. It's like Casey Hudson is saying, we're staying true to what we originally brought you in 2003's Knights of the Old Republic. They promised a new story, though, with all new characters, is what it's seemingly shaping up to be. And I'm okay with that. I don't mind moving on. Like, how many times have you been wanting to move on from the Skywalker saga in the movies? And they never did let us move on from that. So I'm okay moving on from Revan, moving on from Mitra Surik, Cartho Nassi, all these characters, Basta Lashan, you know, all these different people, Mission Veo and Juhani. I mean, I loved all these characters, and I fell in love with all the characters. I fell in love with the immersion of these characters and their stories, their backstories, and how you bonded with them. It was a truly unique experience when it dropped in 2003, and I honestly feel, as Casey Hudson says, I'm not getting any younger, so expect it before 2030. I truly feel Casey Hudson's on the right track. There is so much to unpack with this game as it goes on, and I can guarantee you I will be doing my share of videos on this game as it moves on, as we get more. But in the meantime, guys, in closing, we got Fate of the Old Republic coming out. We know we got KOTOR 1 remake coming out by Saber Interactive, alive and well. We've been reassured. New leaks of KOTOR 2 The Sith Lords. Could this open up a possibility for a KOTOR 3? They'd worked on one in the past. Who knows? They started work on it. They started production on it. It never came to fruition. But guys, tell me your thoughts in the comments section. How excited are you guys to get a Fate of the Old Republic? I'm a kid in a candy store, like I said, and I'm telling you, I've been giddy ever since I got finished watching those awards. It's an exciting turn of events that's coming out. And again, I got Exodus coming out early 2027. Former devs of BioWare as well. So the sky is the limit, and things are looking up in the video game industry if you're old school Gen X like me. But thank you so much for watching this video. Please feel free to subscribe to That's Fair Podcasting or Gaming Geeks Live. Again, please like that video. You help us in that algorithm. You've been helping us grow. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for that. And if you didn't do any of those and you just watch this little kid rant like a little baby bag bitch who's so excited, thank you for keeping with me here. And to all you gamers out there, all love, and I'm outro.